We're going to call to order the January 30th, 2024 special school board meeting for the Yucaipa-Calimesa Joint Unified School District. I'd like to note that all board members are present this evening. And 1.03, it will be a motion for approval of the closed session agenda. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I have a motion by board member Debbie Miller and a second by board member Coe to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. It passes unanimously. And we do have one person who would like to speak before closed session, and that is Tom Aaron. Hi, Tom.
How you doing? All right. Messed up the microphone this time. All right. So I will be speaking twice tonight. After closed session, I'll be talking about the resolution. But tonight, before I'm going to speak about is the need for our employees to have fair compensation. Yesterday, I had my first period class examine some data from the Department of Labor regarding median earnings based off of levels of education. My intention was for them to realize how valuable, getting that degree, getting that advanced degree is. When they first looked at hourly and monthly earnings, the differences weren't that great. And they're like, but college costs so much, or I can get a job now. However, when they looked at lifetime earnings, they were surprised to see that someone with a high school diploma would make about $331,000 more over their lifetime compared to someone without one. And that someone with a college degree would make $964,000 more than someone with just a high school education. Now, coincidentally, that evening when I came home, in my email box was updated salary comparison data from the California Teachers Association. All right. The first benchmark comparison points really confirmed what I already knew. Yucaipa-Calimesa is down in the bottom third. In fact, here we see ranked. These are San Bernardino, Riverside County districts. There we are. Okay. But what was included this time, which I haven't seen in a number of years, was 30-year earnings. So this is where they calculate how much an educator would make over a 30-year career in different districts. And that was really shocking, okay? We are in the bottom third still. However, when you look at those numbers, it is astounding. Okay, a teacher in the Paris Union High School District would earn $429,907 more over a 30-year period. That's 13.8% more. A teacher in Riverside would earn over $300,000 more over the career. A teacher in Redlands would earn $258,000. That's 8% more, and that's not including the raise that Redlands got. I mean, I realize it's not a huge raise, but that's based off of last year's numbers. A teacher in Hemet would earn $236,000 more, Banning $151,000 more. The list goes on. Okay, as we invest in new buildings and infrastructure, curriculum, and more, let's not lose sight of those educators who make it all happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We will adjourn into closed session, and closed session starts at 6. We're going to call to order the January 30th, 2024 Special Board of Education meeting for the Yucaipa-Calimesa Joint Unified School District. Welcome, everybody. I would like to point out, well, actually, first we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand with us and join us in the pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will note that all board members are present this evening. And 3.04 is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, they're not.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
That's a motion by board member Bannister and a second by board member Coe. Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. It passes unanimously. There is nothing to report out from the closed session. So now we're going to go into public comment. I believe all of our public comment items are things that are on the agenda this evening. So there's a 5-minute limit per speaker, but we do have, I believe, 14, which takes us over the 30 minutes, correct? To with consensus from the board, are you willing to entertain all of the 14 speakers tonight? Yes. And okay, then we will do that. But I would ask those speakers to please keep your comments to within the 5 minutes. I don't want to cut you off, but we're going to have to do that tonight so we can get to everybody because we want to hear what everybody has to say. So let's get into it. Our first, Tom Heron. Welcome, Tom.
Cabinet, members of the school board, Yucaipa-Calimesa educators, community members, members of the association, CSCA and YCA, and all their families. My name is Tom Heron. I'm president of the Yucaipa-Calimesa Educators Association. I'm also a veteran educator who has spent over 80% of my teaching career and over half my life as a proud teacher here in our district. I'm here tonight to speak against board resolutions R11, 2023-24 and R12, 2023-24. Together, these two resolutions will eliminate 77 positions in our moderately sized district. Almost all of these positions are personnel who either work directly with students or play an essential role in keeping our schools maintained, clean, safe, and functional. In addition to your tremendous investment in technology, as well as, I don't know where that came from. Okay, so for YCA, those 36 positions being cut reflect a loss of 7.8% of my certificated colleagues. That's almost 1 in 12. The loss of these positions will be devastating to our students. Some of these educators provide the one-on-one and small group services that our tier 1 through 3 students deserve. Others are essential for our district to offer high quality educational options and sports at our middle and high schools. Others provide essential mental health services to our students, and one is an absolutely essential resource to our teachers by providing coaching and assistance to classroom professionals to grow in their practice of utilizing 21st century technology. I believe this decision to consider these positions expendable is extremely short-sighted and will directly impact the Yucaipa-Calimesa district's commitment to provide over 9,000 students with a high-quality education. Please reconsider your priorities. The investments we make in staffing today will make a difference for many generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, Mr. Lopez.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So there's so many amazing educators and people who work in the district tonight and programs and YCJUSD we can talk about. But tonight I'm going to talk about the amazing PE staff at YHS. I'm a teacher at Beaumont High School. I'm a teacher at Beaumont High School, and sometimes I do period coverage, like when there's not enough subs. And sometimes I do period coverage for PE, and dear goodness, like the amount of students that are in a PE class is ridiculous, right? It's crazy. I don't know how these people are handling as it is. I don't know how they do it. They have sometimes 3 times the kids that I have in my history classes. PE classrooms in general are always overloaded. You have 2 high school PE teachers that are on the chopping block tonight. I can't even begin to imagine what a nightmare those classes will become, not to mention the massive safety issue involved with increasing class sizes and around potentially very dangerous equipment. My kid's a wrestler. They're in the weight room all the time. You know, double the kids in that classroom, you don't have the coverage to watch these kids and make sure that they are safe. If student safety is a concern, then you remove these positions from the chopping block tonight. Kids will get hurt. You're going to hear from a lot of amazing and very passionate parents about the amazing programs and PE teachers at YHS we're going to talk about tonight. Championship teams, by the way, like championship teams. These aren't just teams that are just having a good time. These are championship teams. My message to you tonight is that you have time. March 15th is the deadline for layoffs, not June 30th. A yes vote is a signal to all of these parents that student safety is not a concern, and that instead of entering into good faith negotiations, based bargaining with your teachers association, you would rather get rid of amazing teachers who run your championship programs. Vote no tonight. You have the power to do that, by the way. Even though the district has given you this as what they believe is the best option, you have the power to say no, go back to the table, figure something out. I implore you to do that tonight. Show these parents that their students' safety in their PE classes is a priority to you. Please empower your bargaining unit to go back and look at creative solutions to keep teachers in the classroom. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Erilyn Castro. Hello. You can pull that microphone down there.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Erilyn Castro and I'm a senior at YHS. I grew up in my mom's classroom, like most children whose parents are educators. My dad, brothers, and I always helped my mom set up her classroom, wipe things down, run after school events, and the list would continue. But I have limited time. My siblings and I knew that once the school year started, our mom's students would get the best of her while we got the rest of her. It was difficult at times, but we learned from a young age how important it is for my mom's kids, students, to get a quality education and become valuable members of our community. If as a family we worked together, compromised, and thought outside the box for the benefit of mom students, I ask you to do the same. I ask you to keep cuts as far away from students as possible. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you for allowing us to speak to you tonight. I'm here along with all of the rest of the YCJUSD community members, including the 69 people that are in the overflow building outside, to ask you to take a little longer before you decide to cut the list of jobs currently before you. The changes to the state budget are drastic and have left you with a challenging decision to make. But there's a big concern that the list in front of you represents the faces and support our students see at every site. These positions have a direct impact on our ability to make a difference in the life of each child, and their loss will negatively impact the daily experience across our district. With custodial losses, can YHS maintain the positive changes to our bathrooms? Losing computer tech support will leave critical learning time wasted because classroom technology cannot be used. Will our immersion programs be able to meet the individual needs of our elementary students without the paraprofessional support? Every position on this cut list will cause a real daily consequence when we lose the person who is currently supporting our student in that job. This was my household budget, or when it was my household budget, that I actually did have to trim for a loss in our family income. I didn't start the cuts with my water and my electricity bill. I knew they were a top priority for keeping my family's needs met, and that there would be other places to start those cuts that would be a more logical choice because they have less of a negative impact on the daily activities for life. Our students deserve that best possible support at the school sites, even if it means tougher times behind the scenes where they don't see what's happening. As the people responsible for our students and their education, we need to stay committed to what we know is our best work, and that should be looking at other budget areas that are less harmful at the student's daily level. I've been attending these meetings consistently for the past year. I've heard several of you answer parents and community members who are asking questions on financial decisions you're making with the response that our district administration is presenting you with the best option for that situation. Tonight, I'm going to ask you to challenge your status quo, to do more than just accept the directive that is listed in the board packet. Instead of apologizing in your comments at the end of the meeting for making the tough decision that we do truly understand you don't want to make, I would love to hear a question, a commitment to look deeper for another option. It's time to earn the respect of this community by standing firm in your commitment to do what's right for our children and their daily experience in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Steve.
Okay. Say Evie? Is it Evie or Eric?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. It's Evie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evie Steen. I am a 16-year-old graduate at Oakview High School. I attended here my very first year in my freshman, and I remember some of my biggest impacts were all the teacher aides. These teachers were so overwhelmed with their students, and these teachers were so bombarded by how many students were put in each classroom that they couldn't put their main focus on each and every individual. By having these teacher aides, I feel like this is what has sculpted and helped me decide that I wanted to be an early graduate. If it weren't for these teacher aides, I believe I wouldn't have had the overcoming satisfaction of believing that I could achieve what I wanted and believing that I could overcome my social anxiety and believing that I, as an individual, could make a change to all of the world, you know, that I could make something that would be an impact. And if it wasn't for these teacher aides, I believe that I wouldn't be where I am today. And I don't think the teachers would be either. I speak on behalf of almost all the students at Oakview that our teacher aides are just as important as our teachers. And if it wasn't without them, we wouldn't be the same school. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandro. Thank you.
Good evening. I don't have a speech. I'm just going to talk from the heart and my experience. I have a student at YHS. Okay. Prior to going to attend YHS, he didn't have that mentor, that teacher as a physical educator. I'm hoping you guys vote no on this proposition. Let me tell you why exactly. I'm talking specifically on Mr. Espinosa from YHS. Since joining YHS, he has elevated not only the students' mindset, the mental wellness, but also the physical wellness. He has brought an incredible attitude to the whole sports education and the staff, including the parents. Since joining the Yucaipa High School, Mr. Espinosa has led in many aspects, being a teacher, a counselor, and overall a great human being. If you were to cut any position, specifically Mr. Espinosa's position, you'll be cutting 3 essential positions. So I urge you to reconsider and think of the future of our students. By voting yes, essentially, you're giving the middle finger to the parents and the students, saying you don't care about them. I hope you change your mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Evening, board and everyone that's here tonight. It's awesome to see you. My name is Ryan Peak. I've been a member of this community my entire life. My father, Ron Peak, taught at Yucaipa High for almost 40 years. I actually sat on this school board as a student liaison my senior year. So it's amazing to see the community support and outreach tonight. As a child of a parent, I know what it's, or I'm sorry, as a child of a teacher, I know what it's like to have a teacher as a parent and see the amount of effort that they put into their work. I don't want to see any teachers lose their job. I'm here specifically though to speak on the behalf of Ralph Grajeda, the baseball coach. I've had the privilege of being a part of that program for the last 4 years, and I've seen what he brings to that program. This man works tirelessly. We're talking 60, 70, 80, 100 hours a week. He puts in so much extra effort and work, not just to his teaching profession, but to that team. The Yucaipa baseball program has been one of the premier athletic programs at that high school my entire life. Every single year, we're able to send kids, multiple kids, on to college. And to me, teaching is the tip of the spear when it comes to education. Ultimately, what we want is to set these kids up for success and hopefully go on into life. And to be able to have so many young athletes go on and have a college education, not just by their own hard work, but by, to be honest with you, the connections and the commitment that Ralph has to this community, to those boys, and the people that he knows throughout the college coaching industry. He's been a staple of this community. He hasn't always been supported, to be honest with you, by this community. I've become a personal friend of Ralph, and I know what he has to deal with on a year in and year out basis. And he handles it with grace and with class and with dignity. He toes the company line. He does what's asked of him. He's been an amazing example of what I would hope this city would want out of a person in that position. It's one of the premier positions in this community, if we're being honest. And he has done an exemplary job. I've worked with these young men, especially over the last 4 years, from freshman year all the way up to senior year. And I think it would be a travesty to let somebody like that go that brings so much value to the community, to the program, and that he's here to stay. He loves this community. He was brought in as an outsider. He doesn't have a dog in the fight, and he always handles everything with class and with dignity. And I would just ask that you would consider that as you think about this vote. All the other teachers, I'm sure, are amazing. I have gotten to know the wrestling coach. He's a stand-up individual as well. And I just hope that you keep that in mind when it comes time to vote on this, because eventually you're going to have to replace those positions. And you have some amazing people that are in those positions. So please keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peak.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Mr. Herman.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for taking the time. You guys have a tough job. I wouldn't want your job. You guys have to dig deep into the budget, dig deep into what the people above you guys are telling us, and then you gotta listen to all of us tell you, hey, you're not doing your job. In fact, you're doing your job, and you guys are doing your job well, and we're grateful. But I want to talk about two people in particular, Coach Hobby and Coach Espinoza, two men that are more than just teachers, more than just coaches. They're like fathers to all these athletes. The kids come into these programs expecting to get beat up a little bit, expecting to go through the ringer, expecting to get fit. Now, let me tell you from personal experience, sorry about that, guys, personal experience. When those two men coach, they coach life. They coach overcoming. They coach teamwork. They coach go to college. They coach grades. And the fruit of that product is the girls wrestling team. It was at Angel Stadium last year, accepting the honor of the CIF champions in academics. That's the girls wrestling team. And that's from this man's leadership. So you're not just losing a PE teacher. You're losing a mentor, a father figure, a leader. You're not just losing a track coach. You're losing a father figure, a mentor, a leader. So I know we can go back to the drawing board. We have time. I know we can think about, we've already heard it, the safety in that weight room. And if we're losing people in that weight room to oversee that, I mean, how are we going to feel if one of our students comes back in the hospital and can't go home? Because that's how dangerous it is in those weight rooms. So I want you guys to think about that. Pray about it. You know, I mean, meditate on it if you don't pray. But seriously, give it some consideration. You guys have some time. You don't want to take these two men who are the best thing you guys got in this district for leading these young people and then try to replace them with someone else when the time comes. We don't want that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, Coach.
Welcome, thank you. Thank you for letting me speak tonight, and thank you for the great support that's out here for all teachers that are impacted by this. I'm in my 26th year teaching and coaching, well, 26-year coaching and over 20 years in education. What we do as teachers and coach is way more than dollars and cents and balancing budgets. I'm going to give you an example from my personal experience and also what I'm currently dealing with right now. Growing up, I went to Tustin High. My mentor and my high school coach was Vince Brown at Tustin High. This man is currently the athletic director at St. John Bosco. If it were not for a man like that, growing up, going through a divorce in a single family broken home, I probably would not graduate. I probably would not be mentored to go to college and not mentored to become a teacher and where I'm at positioning as a baseball coach mentoring. Teachers and coaches are mentors. We don't just go into the classroom. We spend time. And I apologize if I'm emotional, but I'm sitting here and I teach with David Espinoza, and we both sit there and we talk and we're propping each other up because this is difficult because between both our family, both our programs, there are over 100 families that we impact. We spend more time as coaches, a lot of time with some of the children, some of the sons and daughters that families actually have time with their own. We spend more time with those families. And it's more than just that. It is mentoring at the end of the day. We're making sure that they're heard. We're making sure that we're moving them in the right position. We're trying to find ways, if they can't do something fundraising, we go out of our way to do that ourselves. We spend so much time doing that. I know I've done that in my program. Not one kid in my program has ever gone without any type of fundraising because I personally will go to different communities to help them. So I want you to know when you think about this, these positions are still going to be there. You have people in place that want these positions, and it is more than just dollars and cents. It is about mentoring, and you can't put a dollar price on that. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Christina Kiriakos.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here. My too short, but sorry. I am new to UKIPA, and I have originally my kids were part of the UKIPA Youth Wrestling Club, and then we loved UKIPA so much. I'm going to read to you an email that I forwarded to the board as well as to the principal at UKIPA High School, just because it orchestrates my thoughts much better than me being on a whim right now. So what I wrote is, this year we are new parents to UKIPA High School. Our son just transferred in as a junior. We have another son joining the Thunderbirds as a freshman next year. And soon we'll have our daughter also joining at UKIPA High School. We had our younger son in the youth club, which was our initial introduction to Mr. Espinoza. After hearing all the positive feedback about his leadership, we were compelled to put our son in off-season training with him. With Coach David, and to say that we were impressed is not even saying enough. This weighed on our decision with the request to completely transfer in our entire life to UKIPA. We have had such a great experience being at UKIPA High School that we have a counselor who's been so tremendously helpful in our path here. She has just been hand in hand with us, and she's been amazing. The families and the relationships that we're building in this town are part of the wrestling community at Yucaipa High School is phenomenal. It's phenomenal for the kids themselves. We have heard there may be a possibility that there are budget cuts and that we could lose Coach Espinoza at our school. Our home, our family, our community appreciates Yucaipa Thunderbirds. That includes specifically Coach Espinoza. Coach David, his integral role in this wrestling team and on this campus in his PE classes. To say that he's truly a great example and leader to these young men and women is an understatement. Regardless of age or skill level, David puts his time and attention to every one of his students. He is an excellent communicator with the families, and he is present for these kids. I have observed him at practices, duels, and these long tournaments. I'm not kidding you. These tournaments are days, hours, and you see him jump in between mats, talking to the kids. Even an hour after one of the kids' match, he will still go back through his phone, show them a video of where they, might have missed a step. He is there even hours after the match, still thinking about these kids. He's phenomenal. He's thinking about each one of these kids. Not only is he present, he's involved. These kids who are living in an era where social media and society as a whole is disruptive to their spirit. He is their voice of determination, encouragement, focus, and perseverance outside of our home when we don't have our kids under our wing. I feel safe knowing he's on the same campus as my kids. Many parents are turning to homeschool and alternative education paths that are apart from traditional public school because there's a prominent division of families being heard, as well as because society as a whole just lacks individuals that are invested in others and are willing to go out of their way for someone else. Our students need more leaders and people that will invest in their lives as Coach David has. He sets a standard to these kids that encourage them to work hard and earn their future successes. He doesn't want them to just lay down, take the loss, take the win. He wants them to learn from everything. And that's a skill I teach my kids at home. So to know that someone is encouraging that in the public school system, that so many people are knocking down every chance they get because it's hard to find good people anymore. It would be devastating to this school, to this team, to our family, and to the Thunderbird family to lose Coach David on this Yucaipa team. We implore you to make every effort you can to keep him on staff. Teenage boys are getting lost every day. Kids, period, are getting lost every day, whether it's society, social media, whatever it is they're trying to keep up with. They're getting lost. For them to have the heart for this Thunderbird team and the heart to follow this coach because he is leading them down a path that every parent here is supporting and here for. It makes a big difference. And I've heard many people say, you're going to have to replace the position anyways. Why make a problem later that you can avoid now? You have solid people here, whether it's a counseling team, the teachers, the coaches. If you've got something working, why break it to try to fix something else? You have people that care about these kids that are already lost coming off of COVID from a few years ago. You've got these kids that are lost in the system of trying to navigate everything. I apologize, I'll close right now. You've got these kids that matter to everyone here, and I'm sure to you because that's why you're on that board. I implore you, my family implores you, to help us keep our school intact with these prominent people in these positions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Members of the school board, my name is Riley McIntyre, or Miss Riley, as my students call me. I am a community day care professional at Oakview High School, as well as a success story of the Yucaipa School District, and I would like to share my story with you before you cast your vote. I started in the school district as a classified substitute. My very first assignment was at Oakview. From that day on, I made it my goal to get a permanent position at the school. The kids really won me over. I was one of them when I was a teenager. In fact, I was sent to Oakview in 9th grade, but instead of giving it a chance and attending, I dropped out and then went on to an independent study program. Long story short, when I was a single mom at 27 years old, I decided to get my GED from the Ukaipa Adult School. I am so passionate about our students at Oakview. The other paraprofessionals and I spend every day working with our at-risk kids to set them on the right path so they don't take the rocky path that I did. Mr. Miller, as a retired police officer, you know as well as anyone what happens to a lot of teenagers when they don't have the support system to lead them in the right direction. We want to see our kids succeed. Our population of students are with us because they struggle, either academically or with their behavior. Our teachers are wonderful, but they need us in the classroom with them. Our students require more attention than at a regular high school. So I ask you all to please consider what our school will be without paraprofessionals in it. How will our students be affected? Because in the long run, that is what matters most. They will be adults before we know it. Is getting rid of a big part of their support system in this very crucial point in their lives going to be a good decision for our community? I don't want our students, the people I look forward to seeing every day, to start their lives on a bad path like I did. But even though I was a dropout, thanks to the Ukaipa School District, I was given an alternative chance when I earned my GED. And then I was given the opportunity to work at Oakview as a paraprofessional in the criminal justice ROP class, as well as PE. I have the privilege of being an active part of our community. I am a success story of our school district, and I want that for every single student that enters our school. They need guidance. They need us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think it's Amelia Burns. Am I saying that right?
Tamika.
Oh, okay, Tamika. All right, we were, sorry. Okay, Tamika. Welcome.
Riley and I, we both work at the same school. We're both paraprofessionals. Everything she said, it hit home. I wrote a speech, but mostly mine is coming from the students. You know, we have students, they sent in, they wrote statements. All of them can be here, so I'm gonna read a couple because I know we have 5 minutes. So I'm gonna start with Alina. She came to her school as a 9th grader with no credits, absolutely none. She graduated as a sophomore. She worked her butt off and graduated. So this is what she wrote on behalf of the paraprofessionals. My name is Alina. I am a graduate from Oakview High School. I'm writing this in concern of my teacher aides. I think they should be able to keep their jobs because they are the only ones that really understand this misunderstood kids. They also have good relationships with all students and know how to communicate with us on our good and bad days. We figure out a plan so we have a reason to go to school and get work done. And to be honest, I only went to school to talk to my teacher aides. And I know if the teacher aides get laid off, a lot of students will stop going to school. This is from one of our special ed students. She came to our school, she didn't talk. It took her a long time to talk to me. And a lot of people at the school for her to open up. She's a senior this year. Dear school board, I believe that you should really not fire the TAs, all 5 of them. Miss Riley, Miss Tamika, Miss Megan, Miss Trost, Miss Meza. They are the highlight of my day and sometimes the reason I go to school. To do my work and they help me mentally. Some of them are better than the actual teachers. No offense, teachers, I love you. From the student. I have another one. He came as an 8th grader. He's a 9th grader. He had the opportunity of going back to the high school, but because he felt great at our setting and he got the support that he needed, he decided to stay. Dear school board, My name is Donovan Wallace, and I am a student at Oakview High School. Recently, I heard that all 5 of the classroom paraprofessionals at our school will be laid off in June. I am asking that you look at this decision over again. Paraprofessionals are a critical role to my education as well as to the students that will come after I leave this school. I would like you to know my education has been improved by paraprofessionals at Oakview. 2 of my favorite paraprofessionals are Mrs. Burns and Mrs. Trost. They have shared laughs and knowledge of my presence. Recently, I was going through a hard time, and these 2 were there to help me through it. They pushed me to be a better person than I was when I first arrived at the school. When I first arrived here, I was disrespectful and overall moody. These 2 really broke me out of my shell and made me part of the man I am today. I would like future students to share the same experience as I did. I hope you consider my experiences in your upcoming decisions. Thank you for your time and dedication to all students. Hello, my name is Jenna. I think we should keep them. They provide emotional support and help the class help keep the class under control. These TAs are crucial to the learning process. My name is Kaya. I go to Oakview High School, and I would love to keep our TAs with me. They are always helping me out with my work. Without them, our school will go all downhill. I also think all these kids will get away with a lot more if we didn't have the aides. I also think they should stay because the kids will get away with a lot of stuff. I also think the school needs them because they take a lot of the stress off of the teachers, and I think they are overall just help run the classroom. My name is Jaden, and I go to Oakview High School. I personally think that we need to keep the aides. My reasons are because the aides are very helpful to the teachers. Second, they are very helpful to us students. Third, they are one of the main reasons I even come to school because they are the only ones to stay on top of my work. I think you should also keep them because a lot of stuff happens when there's not an extra pair of eyes. I'm not saying what goes on here, but stuff happens. I also think aides are a way that students get things off their chest. I know for me, Mrs. Trost, Mrs. Tamika, Mrs. Riley are the aides that have helped me the most, and honestly, the only reason I show up. I think taking them out isn't going to do anything good for the school, and it's because you guys don't have the funds. It takes them out of your checks because I know they are a lot. This will help, and one of the main reasons kids even show up and graduate early. I also think there's a good way for kids to be more social, at least on my behalf. If they didn't talk to me, I wouldn't talk or even care to be at school or in class. And I also think it's not fair that they have earned that position and have to deal with these kids, and now their jobs could be taken away from them because you guys don't have the funds. When y'all make plenty yourself, don't be stingy, take a little out of yours. There's my 5 minutes. Bye.
Hello.
Thank you for listening to us speak. President Snelling, the board of directors, and yes, lots of us. I'm here today. My name is Michelle Acosta. I'm CSEA president. I'm here to talk on behalf of my members. So while we understand that the budget is horrible and we understand you have to make cuts, we're hoping that you listen to us and find alternative solutions to those cuts. Since our students have come back from COVID, our students' needs have continued to grow and change, and we've had to grow and change with them. With the lack of, if we cut these positions, the lack of help will only hurt these students. Our computer resource technology is going forward. Without that help, it's going to affect our students negatively. Without our custodians, the cleanliness of our campuses will also be affected. Without our paraprofessionals, as you've heard, it affects our students greatly. Our site system technicians at the high school alone, those technicians service 84 printers, 96 Chrome cards with a total of 3,400 Chrome books in them, 74 new line TVs, and numerous tech tickets that they have to deal with daily. With these losses of these positions, of our members. It not only affects the members themselves and their family, it also affects our students and the rest of the Yucaipa Calimesa staff. Please consider this before the layoffs. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Mahari, have you made it up here, Tim? Oh, there he is. Hi, Tim.
Greetings, board. My name is Tim McCarg. Got a son here at Yucaipa High School. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for serving the community of Yucaipa. I know it's probably easy when times are good. It's really difficult when times are hard. And I know you're faced with some very difficult decisions. With that said, just a little bit about myself. My parents moved to Yucaipa in '89. I came here in 2001 and bought a house. My 3 kids had gone to Arrowhead Christian Academy. We chose to send them there. And then my youngest son's freshman year, he said, "Dad, I want to play sports for Yucaipa High School." So I pulled my son out of Arrowhead Christian. That doesn't happen very often. As you know, most people are leaving the public school to go to private schools. We did the opposite because of the good reputation of sports here in Yucaipa. I've been in local government for 34 years. And in that time, around 2009, we had to go through layoffs. And it was horrible. We are just now recovering 15 years later. In fact, Friday, we'll bring back one response unit that we didn't have for the past 15 years. So it's really ugly. So as you're making these decisions, make sure that you're considering that to recover is going to be very, very difficult and very difficult on your workforce. And I know that you know that, but I just need to verbalize that. I want to talk a little bit about wrestling coach David Espinoza. My son plays football and wrestles, also does track. He is one of the captains on the wrestling team. And I would like to say with Coach David Espinoza, that is a wonderful, wonderful man and an excellent coach. And I've watched since Will's wrestled since 9th grade here in Yucaipa, watched him interact with some of the kids, the boys and the girls. And this is a fine man that if we lose will be a huge detriment to the high school and to that program. And I know the wrestling program is a very small portion of the entire school, but it makes a difference in quite a few people's lives. And I just wanted you to hear that from me. One of the things that I would say, and I'll be done, is if there's a way to perhaps delay these layoffs, I would strongly encourage you to consider that perhaps through attrition, we may be able to decrease the number of layoffs. The other thing that I would suggest, and what we did in the jurisdiction I worked in, was work with labor to perhaps come up with some incentives to perhaps incentivize people to leave maybe a little bit early than they normally would to save some positions. So that's all I have to say, but thank you so much for the work that you do, and good luck.
Thank you. Andrew Valenzuela.
Yeah, he didn't come down when they called.
What?
Yeah.
Well, who's
Tyson?
He's right here.
Just Andrew. Okay. Welcome. Okay, we got you.
Sorry, y'all.
It's all right.
My name's Andrew Valenzuela.
No, we're fine.
Esteemed members of the Yucaipa Calimesa School District, as we deliberate on a proposed budget cut, sorry, catch my breath.
You're all right. Take your time.
As we deliberate on proposed budget cuts, it's crucial to spotlight the outstanding contributions of Coach David Espinoza, who not only serves as a PE teacher and a wrestling coach, but significantly impacts our community in multifaceted ways. Coach Espinoza's dedication extends beyond traditional roles. He actively runs a co-ed program fostering inclusivity and empowerment for both male and female students. His commitment to gender equality is commendable, providing an environment where all students, regardless of gender, can thrive and develop their physical and mental well-being. In addition to his efforts in wrestling arena, Coach Espinoza's mentorship empowers young women, instilling in them a sense of strength, discipline, and self-confidence. His influence transcends sports, creating an atmosphere that encourages the holistic development of every student. Removing Coach Espinoza would not only impact the wrestling program, but would jeopardize the inclusivity and empowerment he has diligently cultivated. I urge you to recognize and preserve his essential role in promoting gender equality and empowering all students within our community. A vote no is not just a vote against budget cuts, but a vote to safeguard the diverse and empowering educational environment Coach Espinoza has worked tirelessly to create. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that ends our public comment. I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening and letting your thoughts be known. Now we're moving on to our discussion action session. And the first item is 5.01. This is a resolution related to the reduction of particular kinds of certificated services. But before we do that, we are going with the board, and with the board's permission, I'd like to ask the superintendent and cabinet just to give us some background information before we go into a motion and have a chance to dialogue a little bit as though we would during a presentation. So, Ms. Binks.
Thank you, President Stellington, for the ability to share with our audiences. So you know, we have 3 rooms full, so we want to be able to share with them as well some of the things that we do that I know you're aware of, but if that's okay as well. Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Dr. Bremen is going to talk a little bit about the budget. Dr. Bremen is our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. And then Mr. Stolz, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, will talk a little bit about the process of what happens, because some of the questions we've gotten through email and through phone calls, a lot of people that work in a different industry don't understand the rules and regulations and laws that govern what we do and how we do it and why we do it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that with the board's permission. Then Dr. Anderson and I can follow up with any questions, and of course the board can ask any questions they might have.
Dr. Bremen.
Thank you very much. So really I just want to talk about the why. Why are we here? We've shared a little bit with the public and through board presentations, but there's really 3 reasons that we're here. One is when COVID hit, the federal government gave every school district across the country money to support students and staff for the return of students to school. And so you kind of received a significant portion of money to not only provide additional staff for students when they came back from the pandemic, but as well as programs, special programs, technology, those types of things. So we've been living under that for 3 years. And so that's been great for students across our district. That federal funding is expiring. And so this is the last year of our federal funding. And so some of those positions that you'll see this evening are due to the expiration of the federal code funding. The money is no longer going to come in. We have to spend it this year. The second piece is declining enrollment. And so our district for several years has been in declining enrollment. Actually, 85% of the districts across the state are in declining enrollment. Every region, we break, in my business world, we break the region up in the state across each region, many regions. And we see declining enrollment. And so it's a statewide issue. Our neighbors to the west, Redlands, Colton, you go down 10 freeway, are experiencing that declining enrollment. We haven't had a big building project in our district since Chapman Heights. When Chapman Heights came on board, we had 2 brand new schools, as well as a middle school, Canyon, that I was able to be the principal of for a bit. And then we opened Mason View. So we have infield projects, but we don't have large building as our neighbors to the east do in Beaumont and Banning. So we do have some projects, and the homes that have come in, really, it's not currently affordable housing for brand new families. And so we do see these infield projects. We have a project up, or there's a city project up by the park around Ridgeview and Parkview, with those houses coming in, above $500,000. So the student generation factor for those types of homes is not great. We receive less than 0.5 students per house. We have plenty of space in our schools for students, but as districts around us, we're experiencing declining enrollment. And so with declining enrollment comes the need for us to look at programs and staff as we get funded based on the number of students we have in school every day. So we knew that the expiration of the COVID funding was coming. We knew that declining enrollment was coming. What's new to us, and the speaker or two spoke about that, is the California state budget. So as we're funded by the California state budget, the budget came out and the state estimated that we're $37.9 billion facing a deficit for the 24-25 school year. And so when we look at our portion, every year as we do our budget, I do a 3-year budget. So I look at this year, I look at next year and the following year. So we have to budget 3 years. We can't just budget 1 year. So when we look at next year, the Department of Finance over the past 3 years has been estimating that we've received right around 4% new money to cover operating expenses, 3.94 to be exact. The governor released his budget with a projection of less than 1% increase next year. And so if your need for 3 to 4% to operate your school district every year, and an increase, you're coming in at 1% or less than 1%, not only do we have the expiration of the COVID funding, declining enrollment, but now we have a $3 million problem next year where we have to find a solution to what our estimated revenue will be. And so that's what we're looking at. That's why we're here this evening. Tonight's about staff. We're all looking at additional programs. And just on a side note, 3 days after the governor released his budget on January 10th, the Legislative Analyst Office, that's the group from the legislative body who looks at the budget and the fiscal reports, thinks that the governor's revenue projection for next year is $15 billion over. So our legislature thinks that it could get worse. And so we're not planning like it could get worse. We're just planning on the best numbers we have today. And so those 3 things are what are leading to these types of resolutions.
Questions for Dr. Green? Board Member Bob Miller.
Dr. Freeman, I was at a county meeting yesterday, and they had somebody from Sacramento talking about the budget. Many things you said clearly there. And the questions were asked by many of the board members in the county is, why are we having these issues with declining enrollment? Well, the first thing was given was the birth rates down. Secondly, people are leaving the state. Thirdly was families are looking for alternatives after COVID and many of the unintended consequences that came out of that. And one of the interesting things that was said, whether I don't know if it's anecdotal evidence or not, was if your child's sick now, some parents just keep their kids at home because they don't want, number one, the kids maybe go to school if they have COVID or not, or have a cold and want to spread it, or that the kids stigmatized because they go to school and the first thing they're asked is, are you tested or do you have something? So there's many issues that are unattended out of 2019 pandemic. And then of course, if you remember, 22-23, cost of living was 8%, I believe, right? And now we're talking a projected 0.76%, which may be adjusted to 1%, I think is what they're saying. But still, if you look at that literally over the last, 20 years, it's usually around 2 or 3% anyway. So
that 22-23 was just kind of a spike, right? The governor did put out, I guess, that he may get into some reserve money, but you can't live on that. I never comment on public comment, but I had my favorite fire chief here tonight, Tim McCard, showed up. So I remember when we had that downsizing, I was serving as acting city manager at the time, and we couldn't get in front of the snowball. And he's right, we had to work with the bargaining units to make the cuts we had to make. They were horrible. And his time frame's right, it took about 15 years to recover, but cities are budgeted different. What I've learned this year is there's a little more state control over how we do things and county control rather than tax revenue and fees that we can charge in the city. It's not the same, but it's government. And there's so many other constraints. But after going to this briefing last night, it just gave me this perception of you better take some action or else. You know, we have to believe that the experts we're listening to and our staff were doing the right thing. We have to believe in the people that we hire to do the right things. I think Tim would agree that we were former staff members. We wanted our electeds to believe in what we were telling them was the right thing. So I just wanted to talk about that because that meeting last night, listening to that presentation that was very good by the analysts from Sacramento, are telling us what's happening and what's really going on. So I just want to share that. The public, obviously, you know, there's a viewpoint out there. Clearly, we heard it, got it, understand. But that's what we're hearing from the leadership in our beautiful state, which is interesting at best. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. I have a question, Dr. Bremen. What are the ramifications if we don't adopt these resolutions fiscally?
So we, every year or every certain amount of time, we have to present our budget to the county. And they look at 3 years. How are we doing this year and the next 2 years, like I mentioned? If we don't make adjustments this year, going next year, we currently have a positive budget, which means we're okay this year and we're okay the next 2 years. If we present a budget to the county that says we cannot pay our bills next year or the year after, we go into something called qualified status. The county comes in, looks at our books, and makes some suggestions. If we don't make any cuts, we could be in something called a negative status. So that's, there's districts across the state who have done that. And what happens if you're negative and you can't pay your bills next year, then the state can come to you, organization called FICMAT, can take over the school district, the board loses their power, they bring in a fiscal advisor. So it gets serious pretty quick if you don't present solutions and come up with a positive budget over 3 years of time span.
Any other questions for Dr. Bremen?
What's in that time frame? What year are we in? 1 or 2 or 3?
Is somebody from the audience?
Yeah.
No, we're not. The questions are coming from the board right now, so I apologize.
Okay, well, let me voice that question. So you want to clarify when you say you have to do the 3-year budget? My understanding is every year you have to be qualified for the next 2 years. So we're always in a 3-year budget. We're always in year 1 of 3-year cycle of 3-year budget, right?
That's correct. So this year 1 for us is 23-24, year 2 is 24-25, and 25-26. All 3 of those years, we have to show that we can pay our bills, take care of any internal operational increases. So each one of those years. And then when we go to the budget next year, the new first year would be 24-25, and it'd be 3 years out. So in a school district budget, you always have to show that you are fiscally sound for the current year plus 2 more years, regardless of the time frame you're at right now. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Bremen? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Mr. Stolz is going to talk a little bit about the process.
Okay.
Members of the board, cabinet, and those who are here tonight, I think it's the opportunity to talk about the how. It's not necessarily glamorous, but I think it's really important because some of the details in this process do address some of the questions that were raised tonight. Also, it's important that even though it's a process and sometimes it may seem just bureaucratic, there's really some key points in it that I think you'll understand the bigger picture there. So just to kind of go through that with you, the process that we're following when it comes to a layoff of employees is outlined in California law, it's California Ed Code. This is not a process that's decided by the board. It's not a process that administration can just determine. It's written in the law. This is how you do it. In fact, for those of you who are familiar with that, seniority is the #1 driving factor when it comes to any employee reduction. That is for both classified and certificated employees. That's what's embedded in the law, not employee performance, not anything else. It's how long an employee has been employed by the district. The other thing I think that's notable to make sure we understand is that in the recent past, classified employees, the law was different. Classified employees were provided a 45-day notice before possibly not having a job in the coming year, so that process would happen typically in the spring. What's new for us this time around is for our certificated employees and our classified employees, 2 units, we both have to make, the board, the district has to make decisions by law before March 15th. If an employee is not notified of the possibility of not having a job the next year, they can't move forward with that. So just understand that context if that can help. What was before the board tonight are 2 resolutions. I know some of you have seen those, one for classified, one for certificated positions. It's really key to understand that embedded in those resolutions are positions, not employees, not the locations of where those employees work. It's a position. It seems a little impersonal, but that's actually what the first step is. It's the employer, the district is making a determination that these positions would not be needed in the next school year. I say that because the resolutions themselves don't tell the whole story. There are positions on that list that are empty. They are vacant. Has to be listed there. It doesn't say it on the resolution, it does say it on the classified resolution, but it doesn't say it on the certificated resolution, whether it's empty or not, and there's some legal reasons for that. But that doesn't tell the whole story. It also doesn't tell the whole story about a position might be eliminated, but not necessarily the person people think who is affected by that is the person. So let me talk a little bit about how that unfolds. The first step, of course, is the board considering the resolutions tonight. But what happens next during the month of February is myself and the HR team will meet individually with every employee who is affected by this layoff. It's an in-person, personal, private meeting with their labor representative, with their supervisor. It's handled with grace, dignity, respect, transparency. The law doesn't require that we do that, but we feel as an organization, and I know our board would echo that our employees deserve that. In those meetings, all the necessary pertinent information is shared with that person. It's also important to recognize there are 2 kinds of meetings. There is a moving meeting, which means informing the employee their position at that school won't be in place the next year, but they will have a position somewhere else. In that moving meeting, if there are options on where that could be, that's explained. For certificated members, that's usually based on their credential, what they're able to teach. So there will be meetings that come first that talk about people moving. The second batch of meetings are the meetings where unfortunately that individual person would not have a position for 24 or 25. Those are still handled the same way I talked about with the first meeting. Humanely, transparently, with all the information so they're fully informed. All of those meetings have to happen before March 15th. We do have a board meeting on March 5, and the final kind of list of actual layoffs with names will be available at that time. One thing I want to add as an aside is we know we have wonderful coaches in our athletic programs. A coaching position is not on either one of these resolutions. Coaching positions, whether it's one of our employees who coaches for us or a walk-on coach who isn't one of our employees but who does work at Yucaipa High School or somewhere else, that is not subject to the layoff resolution or anything like that. We are going to have people in those positions. It may very well be the same person. It's really important to understand that the coaching piece is separate from the certificated or classified piece. So I said a moment ago, at the March 15th board meeting, there'll be another resolution before the board where there's actual names. The law requires us to actually notify not only the employee, but the board and the community, these are the people affected by a layoff. After the March meeting, throughout the month of April, each one of these employees has the right to state their story, their case, their situation at a hearing in front of an administrative law judge. It's a formal proceeding. The employee has an opportunity to state, like I said, to state their opinions. The reason that exists is because we in the law wants people to have a right to express their opinion. At the same time, in the event that there was a procedural mistake, let's say there was some paperwork done incorrectly, let's say perhaps seniority was calculated incorrectly, the judge could determine that that was a mistake and remove the employee from the layoff list. So it's kind of a check and balances there. The other thing that's critical to understand about April is while we're going through that process, we working with employees are going to do everything in our power to see if these employees who are subject to that layoff, perhaps we have a job elsewhere in the district for that employee. For our classified employees right now today, if you were to go on EdJoin, we have about 20 open classified positions. Whether a person wants those jobs or not, or whether they're eligible is a separate question. But we're not ignoring the fact that even though a person may be subject to a layoff, we're going to try to find a home for them, and if it works for them. It's not exactly the same for classified, but for certificated employees, it's a little bit different. But every spring, things happen unexpectedly. People move, people resign, people have babies, people win the lottery, right? Things happen. And in our efforts to try to find a home for folks, that's what we're going to attempt to do throughout April. In May, the law requires that the board take a final action. Here's the final list. This is the correct list. The hearings have happened. You'll see this come before the board again. And then at the May 7th board meeting, that would be the final step of the layoff process. But I want to add one extra piece because I think it's really important. We know this process is hard on the employee, their families, the students that they affect, our whole school community, and all of you in the audience tonight. But these employees, even once laid off, will be on something called the 39-month rehire list. I mean, I'm not saying that's the best place to be, by all means it's not. But for 3.5 years, that employee has the right to come back to work for us if that job ever comes open again. So for example, if we reduce PE teachers and there is a time in the future where we need to hire PE teachers, we are not permitted to just put the job out and try to hire somebody. We offer it to our previous employees first. We know the value of those employees. These employees are in this situation because of the law and seniority, but if we can find a way to make it happen, the law asks us to do that, and that's what our goal is, to do that. So I shared all this just so the process seems bureaucratic and just maybe detailed and overly complex. But I want all of you to understand, we understand that despite the complexity of it, despite everything, we are going to treat our employees as best as we can, everybody who's affected by this. And I hope this little bit of information helps the board and anyone else.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, Mr. Stolz. First of all, there was a mention made earlier about the unsafe PE classes because of the larger number of students. Are we increasing the contractual number of students that can be in a PE class for this?
No, the contract has set limits, and we will definitely be able to adhere to those limits and still have classes below the cap.
Okay, and then the other piece, I've been through this personally. I've been on this list before, just so I know what it's like. I've been on this list. But my other question is, and I know that and I don't want you to pin it down to a number, Jim. I'm not going to do that because it's not wise of me to do that, to ask you that. I mean, it wouldn't be wise for you to probably say it. But my experience tells me that although on here there are 36 FTEs or a full-time equivalent of teachers, there will probably be less people than that are affected. Is that a fair statement to make?
100% a fair statement. So part of this process is, like I said earlier, listing positions, whether they're vacant or not. But if I was to estimate, I'm going to say estimate or so.
Yeah, don't tie yourself to them.
But it's not 36 certificated spots. It's probably a third of that. Okay. And on this classified resolution, you can see the bottom part where it says 18. It's probably going to be a single-digit number.
And that's because some of those positions may be vacant now, right? Or I know we've actually recognized some retirements because we did offer an early incentive, as Tim actually mentioned. We did do that, so we've had some early retirements. I know.
Correct.
And I don't know all the people. I mean, I I didn't know even who the people were affected, quite frankly, personally, I don't know the people who were affected. But I do know that we're gonna do whatever we can to help support people who have a right to a position to get into that position.
100%. And even if it's for some of our classified employees, just one extra thing that they might need, that could happen during the spring. Same for some of our certificated employees.
So there's a lot of things that can happen over the course of the next couple of months that might very well change the complexion of this.
Correct. I mean, in a perfect world, we will get this number as low as we can.
Okay.
And still meet our targets. The realities that Dr. Beeman said are true. We need to navigate through that and help our people, try to keep our people if we can.
And can the same be said about the classified resolution? And I think you actually alluded to that. It sounds like we have other positions that are open that people might be able to move into. It might not be where they are now or their preference, but there will be potentially spots for other people.
Right. So, I mean, it's safe to give a specific example. I believe there's 5 custodial positions listed on the bottom. There are currently right now 5 positions open, and those individuals could apply for those jobs if they wish. And we will be doubly emphasizing that as we go through these individual meetings.
Okay.
I wanted to, you actually asked me both of my questions. I was very concerned about physical education safety. And the other one was the second one about the possible, really, these numbers are daunting. And thank you for the clarification on that. So
I just would like to comment that based on, what you've just said, it's really obvious to me that we have taken, that you, the cabinet, have taken this extremely seriously and have analyzed this. I know we've discussed it more than twice, more than 3 times. We've discussed it a lot about how to do this the best way, the lowest impact way, to do something that none of us want to do, that needs to be done. And yeah, so I appreciate the hard work that goes into that. I'd kind of like to ask a question about the impact to students. So with programs, yeah. So in all, there's a whole bunch of moving parts to all of this. So just in general, how are we making sure that technology is still supported even though we've had to make some cuts? The students are still supported even though we've had to do some program cuts. What are we doing to mitigate the effect of all of this?
Thank you, Mrs. Bannister. Part of that is really right now pre-planning and looking at it to understand the impact, but also to work together with our school administrators at the sites and also our teachers and other certificated staff that are involved to get their feedback as well, to make sure that we're really understanding the need of the support that's needed, and then working together collaboratively in order to see how we're going to do this differently. Because the support's not going to go away. We still need to support our students. And I'm going to reiterate, it was one of our parents from YHS that said, we do have solid teachers, and that's an understatement. And we also understand, though, that we have amazing classroom teachers, and we do need additional support for our students that need extra help as well. So we're working together with our teams on that.
Yeah.
Actually, my question was a little different. I saw on social media parents or staff members, others, questioned us cutting employees as opposed to programs. But in order to reach this this 1.5 million next year, there's programs being cut also, correct?
That's correct. So 80% of our revenue goes to paying salaries. And so this is obviously salary based and then also programs. So we've looked at those also and least impact on students, but technology, some of those things we brought in during COVID, we're looking at those subscriptions and things we might not be able to offer next year. Obviously led by educational services, but definitely programs also.
And if I could be, and you might want to respond to this, Jamie, I'm hoping that over the course of the next few months, that we really take a close look at our programs and discern what we need, what we don't need, and what those costs are associated with it. Because we're getting down to the point after this year, I don't think it's gonna get any better for some time, quite frankly, unfortunately. But so I'm hoping that we have a process to review programs to make sure that they're legitimate and that they're supportive of our students.
So each year we go through and evaluate our different programs, whether it's our technology that we use in the classrooms. And what that looks like is we may go through and look at the usage. Okay, how did our students or teachers use that product? But then we also get feedback from our teachers as well. But then we look at, okay, how effective was that? And then working also with our principals on that. So in answer, and it kind of goes back to Mrs. Bannister's question too, is we don't have specifics right now, but we're already beginning that process of working together on, okay, what is effective and what's working? And then what also are our teachers and students going to need as well. But we've tried to start doing that. We started it the last couple of years, especially after COVID, because we didn't need as many programs online when we came back. But yet some of our students did need that extra help, either after school or at home as well, or either inside the classroom when our teachers are working in small groups. So then they could have that piece as well for a supplemental and extra. But that is something that we're looking at very closely, and we're going to get the feedback from our teacher teams as well on that, and administrators.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So now we're moving on to 5.01, human resources. This is resolution R11, 2023-24, reduction of particular kinds of certificated services. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Pre-planning stages, and you don't know how it's going to affect the children at this point, because that's what I just heard. How can this is a little premature?
Sorry, I'm sorry. We're right in the middle of a vote.
It's premature.
Do I have a motion to approve item 5.01?
Yeah, approve it.
Do I have a second?
Horrible.
I'll second the item.
Great.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes
Can
aye.
I would like to make a comment. So can I have the answer to that question is why do we need to be doing this now?
No. Thank you. He doesn't know.
No, it's Eric, why do we need to be doing this now?
Pre-planning mode. So we have to make these reductions by March 15th. If we don't go through this process that Mr. Stoll talked about, then we aren't able to go through the layoff process.
Okay, that's my understanding. We are legally bound to notify our employees by March 15th. And because you're being so careful and checking everything and taking the time to talk to everyone, it's going to take some time in order to get those official notifications done by March 15th. It's the law.
Special meetings can happen.
Okay, so I believe that we had a motion and a second and a vote, and it passes 5-0. Thank you.
President Snellings, if I could just clarify, I just wanted to clarify, it wasn't, pre-planning means that we're going through that strategic planning part. It's not that we don't know.
Each and every one of you, 5-0 is ridiculous.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm trying to keep the process going with people yelling in the middle of it. This is our meeting, and so I really would appreciate this to let us do this. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, passes 5-0. Oh, okay, sorry, 4-1, I'm sorry. That's good. Now we're moving into 5.02. This is resolution 2023-24, resolution 12, regarding layoff of classified personnel. Do I have a motion for approval? I have a motion by board member Coate. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by board member Bannister. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any noes? Okay, that resolution passes 5-0. Now we're moving on to 6.01, additional administrative information.
I would just share President Snellings that if any members of the public have any additional questions that they'd like to have answered, we will answer them. If they use our contact _us at YCJUSD.us, we will answer questions. We're happy to sit down and have the conversations needed because we want to answer to our community as well as to our own employees. Also, I just wanted to mention that Dr. Freeman talked about FCMAT. That's the Financial Crisis Management Assessment Team that is in place for districts that don't do their due diligence with financials. And I've been appointed to that board, and there are districts in the state that are facing takeover, some that have been taken over, and I've been in those meetings. And so while these decisions are extremely hard, they're required of us to help the board to navigate them and make presentations. Also, I just wanted to mention that every district is different. And so like our colleagues to the east are growing with those large housing developments that are in Beaumont and Banning. But other districts may have a different way of doing this. They may have enough temporary employees where they don't have to do the layoff process because temporary employees don't have a layoff process. They're just not brought back the next year. And so anyone that has concerns or questions about how other districts are doing it, I would encourage them to ask that, because we have looked at all 33 of the districts in our county and how they've done it, and worked simultaneously to make sure that the board had adequate time to understand and make these decisions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Board member comments. Board member Bob Miller. Board member Debbie Miller.
Thank you, everybody.
Board member Sharon Bannister.
I'm
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. I have to
Sorry.
turn that on.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to thank everybody for coming. In 2008, I was one of the parents. I was out there doing the same thing, and I understand how you feel. It's a whole different ballgame when you're back there, and you're hearing all the numbers. Thank you for everything you've done for our students. I appreciate you, and thank you for all you've done for the district. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna jump on we have a memorial adjournment for my friend Jack.
Yeah.
Jack Brennan was somebody who mentored me when I was a brand new teacher. He got me involved in the union as soon as I was safe to do so. Jack was, and all through my career, was one of the people that kept me going in my teaching. Jack was also one of the people that encouraged me to get on the board. He was very active in politics. Jack was somebody in Yucaipa that knew everybody. Jack Brennan knew your name, knew your kid's name, kept track of everybody. He called me on Saturday to tell me about a mutual friend, and he knew he had run into her daughter. He had remembered her daughter from when she was a little girl. He knew how many horses this gal had, where she was. He was on top of it. When he passed away the following Monday, it made me very sad. But gosh, what a great guy. And I'm so proud to have known him.
Jack was amazing.
Thank you, Sharon.
I want to say thank you for all your hard work. I want to clarify my no vote. It was the physical education for me. I made a mistake, and when I was reading the paperwork, and I didn't realize it was 2, so I apologize. Due diligence on my part on that one line item. I apologize. Everything else I agree.
Okay. Sharon, I'd like to thank you for providing context to the memorial adjournment tonight. And I'm sorry that you lost your friend. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know that you didn't necessarily like what you heard, but for the time being, that's where we are. And I would like to do a memorial adjournment. The Yucaipa-Calimesa Joint Unified School District Board of Education this day will adjourn in memory of John Jack Brennan, who served as a teacher at Yucaipa Intermediate School and Yucaipa High School from September 1st, 1964 until his retirement in June 30th of 2004. He taught social studies and special education. We are adjourning this meeting in his memory and thank him for his service to our district.